Story 1. Am I the a-hole because I refuse to get my boss lunch anymore? I, female 33, have had a job with the same company for almost 12 years. I was originally hired to come in and help around the office that my mom works at. Then, after the second week, I was given a computer. A month later, I was offered a salaried position. For the past 12 years, I have done all sorts of jobs for this company. Billing until someone else was hired to do that, marketing until they got someone else to take over that for me, along with accounts payable, receivable jobs, DOT fleet management, setting up pricing for all our products across all 5 branches, etc. Our receptionist retired last year, and we got someone else to cover her job. However, this employee is a reservist, we will call her M, a 45 female, and she was called to serve earlier this year. For the weeks she was deployed, we hired another lady to come in, we'll call her R, 54 female. When M returned to the office, the VP decided that he didn't want her to be a receptionist anymore, that she would go into sales. Then R would no longer be a receptionist either, but move into my position while I would now be a receptionist. I was very upset by the whole prospect and tried to talk to my boss. He told me that this was the VP's call and the VP thought this would be best for the office, to just hold out until he figured out it was a bad idea. So while I have to essentially take a demotion and 2 women who have worked less than a year get a promotion, he told me to just wait it out. R and I were told to write down every job that we did and then train the other how to do things. However, I've been with the company for 12 years, and since I already knew how to do everything, I spent the next 3 weeks training R to do my job. However, since some of the training has ended, we have been having a lot of issues with R. She has a hard time keeping up with the pricing like I did, so she is constantly trying to get me to do that for her. When my coworkers go to her to ask for assistance on something, she makes a huge deal about having to add something else to her list of duties, when most of the time this task takes 10 minutes out of the whole year, because again, it's just assisting someone, not a new task for her to do. It has gotten to the point where no one asks her to do anything because she just reaches out to the VP and asks if she has to. When I started working here, I was 21, so when someone needed to go to the post office, I did. When someone needed to get lunch for the office because a customer was coming in, I did. When it's someone's birthday and a cake or cookie needs to be ordered, I did. I was starting to get annoyed by always being the gopher of the office, but I was 20 years younger than everyone else and the newest employee at the time. I figured I was paying my dues. However, I've now been here for 12 years. I'm not in my 20s anymore, and there have been many new hires. My dues are effing paid. Every day I run out to get lunch for myself and my mom. I used to have to get lunch for my boss when he came into the office, but since I've moved to reception, I haven't. All of my jobs have been transferred to R. Shouldn't she have to do the errands for the company now? But every day, my boss still asks me to get his lunch while R is just sitting there. R didn't even order anything for his birthday, 10-2, and I had to race to a local bakery to find cookies before he came into the office. When I mentioned this to R, she said that she thought it was something I enjoyed, so she just figured I would keep doing it. Today, I ran out to get my lunch, my mom had brought her own, and when I got back, M came to me trying to say that I should have asked my boss if he wanted something. I told her no, that if he wants something, he can ask R because that is her job now. M said that I was being petty and should just go get his lunch since I always have. I think that R should be made to do her job. So, am I the a-hole? Not only are you not an a-hole, but I don't think you realize the kind of value you have as an employee. To be unceremoniously demoted so these newer people can suddenly take over your jobs and you're stuck doing something that you absolutely shouldn't be stuck doing is kind of ridiculous. You clearly have developed an amazing skill set that is not being utilized, and frankly, it's offensive. Like, what you should do is put all those skill sets onto a resume and look for a new job. I know it's not the easiest thing, but you have some really marketable skills that your company clearly doesn't value, and they're not treating you appropriately. You can get out there, and I promise, when you find a new job or get a better job offer, then you can go to the VP or whomever and be like, oh, by the way, I'm going to be putting in my 2 weeks because this company is going to let me actually do the work I'm capable of doing and is going to pay me better. I hope that M and R are able to, hold up all the stuff that I was doing. And they won't. They clearly aren't capable of doing everything you are. You're being taken advantage of. Don't let them get away with it if at all possible. Story 2. I stood up against someone causing my parents' business under review bombing. My parents have owned a small Chinese restaurant for the past 25 years. Recently, I spent a day working there as a waiter, and a big party of 11 people came in with their children. Their children were pretty rowdy and running around the top of our benches. I politely asked the parents to calm their children down as they were causing a disturbance and could hurt themselves. The parents made a half-hearted attempt to calm them down, but the children returned to running around on the benches. Unfortunately, one of their kids fell and hit his head. The child was stunned, holding his head, and looking like he was in massive pain. Others came to his care as well as his mother, but the father told his child to get over it and to suck it up when the child started crying, all while he attempted to rush out the door. He didn't even try to look after his kid when he got hurt. I watched all of this silently until the father was pushing his kid to get out of the restaurant. At that point, I had enough and told the father he could try being more empathetic to his child. He told me to mind my own business, and I continued to repeat how his child had just hurt himself and that he needed attention rather than neglect. The father just kept repeating, "Mind your own business," as his friends and family were holding him back from approaching me. I was behind the front counter the whole time. I spoke sternly and never swore. I tried to be as professional as I could while trying to make my point. Now they're review bombing my parents' restaurant, and I can't help but think it was all my fault. I've tried responding to the business with context, but they keep deleting their review whenever I respond, and they keep writing new ones saying that I deleted their reviews. Is there anything I can do to prevent review bombing? I don't want my parents to suffer because of my actions. Thank you for any responses. The best thing that I can suggest that you do is just take down evidence of their reviews. Take screenshots, stuff like that. Take screenshots of your responses. Put it up on social media. TikTok eats that stuff up. They love to find jerks like this and try and just wash away the crap that they're doing and maybe give your restaurant some good press or whatever. Honestly, I think that's the best thing you can do in this day and age, because when every single person can leave reviews and just be a complete a-hole, that's what's going to happen. Now, I will say, as far as should you have spoken up and kept telling the guy to quit neglecting his kid? Yeah, I think so. His kid was actually hurt and the dad was being a jerk. I don't know. I think some people say oh, well, you probably should mind your own business. You're not the parent. But I don't know. When a kid actually gets hurt and a parent is just suck it up, I want that parent to suck on a rock. Story 3. Got awoken by party girls next door, so I gave them an unwelcome early rising. I am a 41-year-old father of 3 kids under 9. I've never been able to afford a vacation, let alone one without kids. Saved up for a very long time to take my wife on her dream trip to Bar Harbor, Maine. We live in Kansas City. The first night, after a day of amazing hikes and boulder climbing to scenic peaks in Acadia National Park, we fell sound asleep until 3 a.m. That's when I heard the 2 25 to 30-year-old women next door squealing in the hallway and constantly opening and slamming their doors. I was young once, partied very hard, well into my 30s, and I have a ton of patience. I gave them some grace at first, didn't say anything, fell back asleep, and 45 minutes later they were even louder through the wall and in and out slamming doors again. I got up to say something and missed them, and they're going back into the room. Fully awake, I noticed the "Please do not disturb" sign on their door, which I promptly snatched. Spent 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. reading in the lobby until my wife texted me asking where I was. After we got ready and went out for breakfast, I was there to see the maid knock and enter their room to wake them up and hear their reactions. Miserable and hungover. I gave the maid a tip of $50 and apologized for their rudeness. It's the least I could do to make her catch a stray bullet. Yeah, folks, I know what it's like to be rowdy, party, be in your 20s, early 30s. You just want to have some fun, and you know what? You're at a hotel, you don't have to worry about neighbors, but you do. You do have to worry about them, and yeah, if you're gonna be loud and obnoxious at 3 in the morning, you do not have any right to be upset when something like this happens to you, because something like this will happen to you because other people exist. Who knew? I sure never would have guessed it, but yeah, they're out there and you're bothering them. So have your fun, but come on, if you're gonna be that loud and rowdy, at least ask the hotel to put you away from a bunch of other people, or I don't know, rent an Airbnb? Never mind. I don't know. Story 4. Today, I effed up by hooking up with a foreigner who has a girlfriend. I want to preface this by saying I did not know. Sorry, the story is long. For reference, I'm a female first-year college student at a coastal college in the eastern U.S. I was walking downtown one Friday night with my friends after leaving a music venue, drunk when I made eye contact with a guy, but an abnormally long amount of time. I mean at least 10 seconds. I noticed that he's cute and perhaps a little too old for me, but I'm a little drunk and I'm feeling bold, so I turn around and walk up to him. I ask for his Snapchat because that's just an easy way to talk to someone, and he mutters to me, "I'm from Germany, though." I tell him I don't mind and I'd like to get to know him. He says okay, and we exchange Snapchat. For a few days, he did not reach out, so I figured he wasn't interested. Okay, whatever. But he eventually reached out, and we began talking frequently. We tell each other all about each other. He tells me he is studying in Germany to be a doctor, how he's on tour of the U.S., about his hopes and dreams and family, and I do the same. I start to feel a sense of closeness to him before we even meet up again. One night, he asked me to hang out with him and his friends before he left for a new city to visit in America. I happily say yes. However, he is 23 and so are all of his friends, so he suggests bar hopping. Long story short, I get my fake taken and get extremely embarrassed, but he decides to come back to my dorm with me. We talk for a while and eventually we have intercourse. Some of the best, might I add, and we did many times, but irrelevant. We end up spending the whole night telling each other so much about our lives and being extremely vulnerable with each other. He had to leave the next morning for his flight to the next U.S. city on his list, so he left. I'm left at home, a little sad that it came to an end, but content, realizing that this was a one-night thing and I shouldn't become obsessed. I'm not delusional and knew he probably did this kind of stuff with a bunch of girls. He is subjectively a very attractive man, and with that accent, I know other girls ate that up too. But I still was happy about it. I expected him to not reach out much while on his tour, and he didn't for a lot of it. But he would occasionally send me pictures of Vegas or San Francisco or Hollywood Boulevard, or text and ask how I'm doing. He then told me that he was going to make a detour from his plans and come back to my town to see me. This is very exciting for me, and I say yes, and we make arrangements for him to come stay the night. He flies back to me and comes over. He greeted me with a necklace that he bought me while he was gone, matching his, and put it on me. We again talk about our lives in depth, our futures, and his tour. We had intercourse again, multiple times, and we ended up staying up until like 4 in the morning just talking. Couldn't tell you everything we discussed, but it was very intimate, and he is an extremely romantic person. Like, when we woke up, he watched me get ready, telling me how beautiful I am and how upset he was to say goodbye, kissing me in between every step of my morning routine. Right before he left, he pulled me back into bed and told me to never settle for less, that whoever ends up with me is an extremely lucky man and that I am beautiful, intelligent, funny, kind, etc. He told me he wanted one day fly me out to his home and show me where he lives. It was a very sweet moment for me. I started crying because I don't think anyone's ever told me such nice things. I know, though, that men will say anything to get in your pants, but this felt real, at least to some degree. We hug and kiss and tell each other, "Have a great life," and he walked away. Later that day, he removed me as a friend from his Snapchat. I'm pretty upset, but again, realized this was not going to be a long-term situation, so I was okay. I brushed it off as a cool meetup with an awesome person that I was lucky to meet, a once-in-a-lifetime person that I'll never forget. This goes on for about a month, neither of us reaching out. Fast forward to last night. Some guy added me by searching on Snapchat, got a name, not a name I recognize, but I accepted anyway. He sent me a snap, and to my shock, it was the German saying that he misses me so much. I asked him why he was contacting me on a Snapchat of a person's name that wasn't his. He then sends me paragraphs explaining that this was a fake Snapchat, that he has a long-term girlfriend back in Germany, that they aren't doing well, and that he wasn't sure if he wanted to be with her. He told me that spending time with me was great and refreshing for him, that he would never forget me, and I was more special to him than I realized, but he didn't want her to find out, so he would be talking to me on this Snapchat because he doesn't want to lose contact. I didn't say much. I just told him that while I felt the same way, what he did was wrong and I wasn't sure what to say. He said, "I know, sleep well, and when you wake up, we'll talk about this more." I'm not sure what much there is to talk about. The Atlantic Ocean and a girlfriend are dividing us. Not like we're going to get married, but he was very special to me, and I'm ashamed to admit that I do want to talk to him. I love the plot. He blocked me on Instagram, assuming that I could not find the girlfriend. I'll probably stop talking to him and write this off as a crazy thing that happened to me in college, but I am sad. I feel guilty and terrible for the other girl in Germany, but he was one of the most memorable people I've ever met. I just gotta say, as romantic as it all feels and as caught up as you might get in the emotions, you're still fairly young. I mean, you referred to a 23-year-old as way too old for you in the beginning, which, oh boy, I mean, that's not that big of an age gap at that age. You're 18 or 19, I would assume. But as fun as it was in the moment, and as much as you might have talked, there's kind of a period dating anyone that you should refrain from really getting too serious. I think most people say like the 6-week period or whatever, because people will put on a facade. People will just show you the absolute best side of yourself. And that's all you've seen of this guy, except for now the side of him that's also a liar and a cheater. And so I think you're making the right choice by not talking to him again. I know you've got emotions attached to this, but don't trust them. You've had only so much time to actually interact with this person, and within that period of time, he's already shown that he's a cheater. And if he's willing to cheat on her while there's, an ocean apart, if you started to see him long distance while he's in Germany, who's to say that's not going to happen again? So I say just take the nice memory of what you had and try and forget the rest and move on. Story 5. Entitled Ex Ghosted My Friend, Then Demands a Room in Our House. This isn't my ex, but my best friend's ex. She and I have been friends for years and live together now, and now we live with my parents who adore her like their own daughter. I got her permission to post this. My friend, 30 female, came to the US from Latin America at 19 as a student. She also started dating her ex, 29 male, after many years of hanging with each other both during vacations and online. I knew them both since high school, and they seemed good together. She tried to convince him to move together a few years before their breakup. He was living with his parents who wanted him to leave. At this point, she had already finished college and had a job in the US that granted her a visa. He had quit college and worked part-time. From what I can gather, he didn't want to leave his parents' place because of free food and no rent. So instead, she asked me if I wanted to move with her so we could afford a bigger place. I said yes, and we moved together, adopted a cat and a dog, and pretty much became Grace and Frankie. Around the start of the pandemic, things got bad for them. This is what I was told and what I saw. They never talked or hung out or anything. I was in a breakup at that time myself, so I wasn't really on top since I had my own issues, but my friend cried so much. She didn't even get a happy birthday. After a year of no contact, she assumed the relationship was over. She changed all her social media to single, which he could see, took him off her emergency contacts at work and at her doctor's, and just moved on with her life. This year, my stepdad's health has gone downhill, and my mom needs help caring for him. She works full-time as a therapist. I work from home, and my job is very flexible, so I put in the idea of all of us living together, and I'll care for my dad. Eventually, I'll care for my mom, too. My mom loved the idea and asked my bestie if she wanted to move with us, too, so we could all be together, and also because at this point, I can't see myself not being in the same house as her. We've come to terms with being single ladies. Heck, we've joked that one of us should adopt, and we've become a parent/aunt dynamic. And now the joke is more serious since I'm considering it, and she's incredibly supportive. No, we're not dating. She's straight, I'm bi. We're just incredibly close after all the BS we've lived through together. We found a perfect house, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathrooms, enough space, a yard, everything we need. And we got it after a bunch of difficulties and arrangements. Since I don't have immediate plans for adopting yet, I have a ton of paperwork and years of planning ahead. We made the extra room into our office/gaming hub. We both work at the same place, totally not on purpose. They were hiring and we both needed visas. And as proud first-time homeowners, we posted pictures. Her ex, who by this point has been MIA for 3 years, messaged her saying he was so excited to move into the new house. She told him this was her house with me and my parents. He said since they were a couple, she could kick me and my parents so he could move in. I want to point out that my parents bought the house. We, friend and I, will pay them our parts over the years. And if she decides to move out, I'll finish paying and I'll buy her part out. This is all in paper and signed. So she obviously told him he was not moving with us and that he ghosted her, so there was no relationship. He went on a tirade that he never broke up with her, that she was abandoning him, that she never cared about him, etc. I got peed off, took the phone from her, and told him he could live in a bear cave for all I care, but to leave my friend and our house alone. He went ballistic and began calling us some names, referring to the LGBTQ+ community. That would probably get this post flagged, so I'll leave it to your imagination. My friend started crying and I was absolutely done with him. I never thought he was abusive, but my friend confessed to me that this was not new. He always had issues with the two of us living together and accused her often of cheating on him with me. We ended the call, and I told her she needed to block him for her own sanity's sake. She deserved so much better than this man-child. She got me to leave my abusive ex when I was in high school. She took me to the hospital when he beat me up and called my parents. My friend is family, and I'll be dead before I let some bastard with commitment issues make her suffer. Since then, he's gone on a major campaign in our friend group to say my friend abandoned him and left him homeless since apparently he canceled his lease after he saw we bought a house. He also claims we're lesbian Satanists that probably abuse our pets and are mooching off my parents. Most of my friends know the story and know my friend and I moved together at first out of necessity, then we just don't see ourselves not living together. So yeah, my friend's ex is a nutcase, and if he ever gets close to her again, I will personally give him a free vasectomy. Bravo! Absolutely. Holy crap! He was gone! He had no contact with her for 3 years and doesn't call her up saying, "Hey babe, we should get back together. I miss you so much," but calls her up going, "Can't wait to move into the new house, honey." That's unhinged. Like, that genuinely sounds like maybe the police need to be called, because what is happening? Either he's gaslighting her in what has to be the stupidest way possible, like, yeah, she'll believe that we're still together after 3 years if I just act like it. Or there is something genuinely wrong with him that needs, like, some extreme therapy or something. Something wrong with him to the point where I would genuinely be afraid for my life. So, holy crap, I'm so happy they found each other as friends and they've embraced this non-traditional family dynamic. How wonderful. I wish them all the best of luck with adopting and all that stuff. And I hope that this absurd cartoon villain stays away from them. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.